Hello YouTube. Hey, wanted to do a little spill covert truck repair. Want to do a little video about brake chambers. Brake chambers is a major part of road service. Truck's going down the road, driver sees smoke coming off the wheel. So what's happened? Air pressure goes down, so brake chamber failed. Springs broke, you can hear it. This one, springs broke. It's jammed. Doesn't come all the way out. Now, whenever you're dealing with these, you're going to be able to look down that hole for a caging bolt to be able to release the pressure there, and you're not going to get it because it's off to the side. So when I go deal with a brake chamber that's leaking air out the holes here, out the emergency section, truck, trailer, I generally put piggybacks on it as much as I can because I'm a road service and the main part of the job is to be able to get the freight moving just as fast as you possibly can. So we're not interested in getting a new brake chamber, taking everything apart, measuring, cut, and put it all together. We're interested in being about maybe 15, 20 minutes getting that unit moving. So what I do, first thing I do, I take a set of vice grips with pressure applied to the brakes. Vice grip my rod. That way the brakes are applied, and you'll see the reason for this. Then, I never use a caging tool. Like I mentioned, you probably couldn't even get it in there if you wanted. So I take and clean my threads, have my impact ready, and this is how I cage brakes. So now the emergency brake is released. It'll be puking air out through here. I'll have the air compressor running. And then I'll release my bolts. That'll fall off. So then you just take your Piggy Back. They generally come caged. There's generally a caging bolt in the Piggy Back. So then the hardest part is putting the clamp on, matching up the Piggy Back to the base, getting the clamp on, putting it in the right position, and getting that tight. So then once that's done, you can put back in your nipple there, put pressure in, you can take the caging bolt out. Or you could even take and leave the caging bolt in, put your nipple into the service side, put air to it to hear if you got any leakage where you made it up the brake chamber to the base chamber. So that is, doing it that way, it's very, very fast, very easy to change piggybacks to where that the unit is going fast. The one thing you always got to remember that if you got a brake that's smoking, the fault's on the other side. It's the broken, it's not on the side that's smoking, it's on the side that's not smoking, because it's letting the air pressure out of that axle to where the good spring is starting to overcome the air loss. So that is how I take and cage brakes. Or if I'm taking the whole thing off, I want to cage it, I just use air. I don't mess with the bolts. I don't have that long 3/4 inch socket. That's what I use. Now there's a subject we want to mention, and that's situational awareness. Whenever you want to do this route, and you're going to take and pressurize the brake chamber, you always want to position your body. You want to think, if something goes wrong, what's the direction of force that can get you in trouble? You always want to think of that. So never put your body in line with the travel of pressure that's released. Now, the story I give you on that is one time I was jacking up a truck front on the steer axle. I think I was changing springs or some doggone thing. And so I had to jack under the steer axle, but I had a little bit too far forward. It was kind of, if you're aware of steer axles, they got kind of a rib down at the bottom and they're kind of about tapered there. So I got it on too much front, and so I was jacking the thing up. But as I jack up, I always, I use air jacks, bottle jacks. I always position my body to where it is not in line with the jack coming out. I always do that. So that time I jacked it up, got it on the wrong part of the bevel. That jack popped out. It landed where my head was. Truck fell down. Driver was inside, shook him up. But, and then I figured, that's a good time to go get my cataracts fixed. So I figured, man, shit, I can't see that far down in there to be safe. Well, we'll just get rid of the cataracts. And so that's what I did to solve that problem. So whenever you're doing anything where you're going to exert force, you're using the jack, you're releasing a chamber, you're taking a ram out of a cylinder, you're using a crane, always take and try to be situationally aware of if something goes wrong, which way is the energy going to go. Now, the main story with that is chalking trucks. My first video, I showed my toolbox where it was crunched because I was tired and I wasn't aware of my situation. Now, the other story of situational awareness happened up in the Dunsmuir scales in California, where the mechanic was adjusting brakes. He was underneath the truck. He hollered up to the driver to release the truck brakes so that he can adjust the drive axle brakes. Driver was a young kid. He did. Truck rolled, popped the guy's head. He was actually a brother of one of the officers at the scale house there. So things like chalking things like whenever you're going to release pressure, all this kind of thing, try to be proactive in being aware of your situation, figure out where is the energy going to go if something goes bad. So anyway, that's my little spiel about piggybacks. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, most places, most shops, they're not going to do this. They're going to change the whole chamber. And that's more safer, really. Less liability. You change the complete chamber. Remember, Dave at one mechanic, he said, they have a policy. They don't use piggybacks there in his shop. And it's true. It's safer to change the whole chamber. But he's in a shop situation. So if you're out on the road where you're trying to get something move fast, that's your objective, try this, use piggybacks, but be mindful of doing it safe. Now, once you do this, you put the air to it. Most of the time, it's going to be a big old air loss coming out. You'll hear it. One thing generally you have built-in safety is that most of the time the spring in the emergency part is broken. So it's not going to have the energy that a normal emergency section is going to have. But be aware of what could go wrong. Always don't be in line with the energy coming back. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. We'll figure out another video here sometime. Thank you much.